Hey guys, my name is Ryan.
And my name is Miska.
And welcome to Overwatch Central. And welcome to What's the Meta. It's a series where we kind of look at the Overwatch landscape as a whole. Which heroes are really popular right now and what heroes you should invest time into. Think of it like a stock market. Some heroes are really good right now, so you want to invest time and effort into learning them. Whereas some other heroes you might want to stay clear of. With some of the changes that we saw on the PTR, we may see some major shifts for certain heroes. It comes as no surprise that the likes of Hanzo is a hero that we've clearly got our eyes on. But a lot of other things may happen if these changes go through. Before we get started, let's go over the ratings real quick. We have gold, green, yellow and red. Gold are of course the meta-defining heroes that you may want to consider learning for Season 5 just because they're going to be that good. Green for the most part can be used across all different forms of game modes and maps, and overall fairly solid picks. Yellow tend to be more niche, but in certain maps and game modes they can be incredibly strong, it's just not all of the time. And red are the heroes that honestly there are much better options that you could be picking from, and we'll explain these in more depth when we get to them. But anyway, let's get started.
First on our list are offense heroes, always starting with Genji of course, who recently has been experiencing some minor changes with bug fixes and various other tweaks. Overall he's still a very strong pick, but not really meta defining. Next is Mccree, who I think all of us have been worried about lately to at least some degree. He's in a very odd spot right now and has been for the past few months to be honest. With Soldier being the more popular pick for hitscam, Mccree has definitely become more of a niche pick lately. Pharah is doing very well right now after minor tweaks to heroes that do well against her. And her best friend Mercy is in a good spot too, making Pharah even scarier. Reaper is still in this very sad situation, seeing extremely little play. I imagine this will just continue if something doesn't change directly with the hero, so I do hope we see some change there. As for Soldier 76, I don't ever see him falling out of the meta entirely at least. Even after a minor nerf, he's still doing just fine, really. Sombra is one of those heroes that we always have a tricky time placing. She is the king, or queen rather, of heroes that are strong in the right hands. She's seeing a bit more play by Korean pros actually, so it's going to be interesting to see how her position develops. And finally in this section is Tracer, who is in a pretty amazing spot right now to be honest. With Mccree not doing very well, Tracer can run around more freely and overall her usage and win rate have both been going up and up recently.
This time around we're going to classify defense heroes a little bit more harshly just to be more precise. Overall defense heroes just don't compare that well to offense heroes, but we figured that we'd give you an idea of how they compare against each other, rather than you just putting them all in the same boat saying they're useless and not touching them. Bastion has fallen quite heavily since the start of the season where he was a massive pick, and it's now doing quite badly again unfortunately. Hanzo on the other hand is doing a bit better than before, and if these changes that we saw in the PTR do make it up to live, he could be doing even better in the upcoming season. So much so that I would deem it the Hanzo meta. Junkrat is still a bit unreliable and only finds very minimal niche use for bombarding specific checkpoints. I do think that ultimate really needs looking at as a change for Junkrat because it just doesn't look good for him. Mei is kind of in the same boat there really and sees very little play overall other than those niche picks to stop people coming into a choke. Torbjorn however has been picking up the pace and finds an okay amount of niche use, but nothing quite out of the ordinary. He's just more of a staple pick the same way that Symmetra is on certain maps and game modes. And Widowmaker is an odd one who has seen similar levels of use to Hanzo, but doesn't seem to have the same future potential. Seems that Blizzard are quite happy with where she stands, so she gets picked up now and again.
Tanks have shifted around a bit, but nothing too dramatic has been going on there. Diva is sorta back, I guess you could say. After previous nerfs she had troubles finding her feet again, but her pick rate is starting to come up once again. The tank slot she fills is quite heavily contested though by other choices. Orisa is still struggling to find her true spot, but can occasionally be effective, especially on defense. It'll definitely be interesting to see how her role develops. Reinhardt is the same old Reinhardt essentially. Nothing too out of the ordinary going on there. Roadhog is still doing alright with his damage being difficult to find a replacement for. He's still in a very healthy spot overall. Winston has been on the rise lately and has especially been doing well in professional play. With his win rate going up significantly in the highest skill tiers of competitive play too, there's no doubt that there's a lot of potential in the hero. We find Winston to be a great tank pick right now, so long as you have a plan. Zarya is sort of the same old Zarya. She's in a solid spot and doesn't really have anything different in particular to keep in mind, but she's no meta-defining god tier hero either.
Finally, we have supports, and of course we begin with Ana. There's no surprise that she's still one of the most played heroes across the board in competitive play, but she's not really in her S tier position that she used to be in. Lucio is an interesting one who has been a bit all over the place since the rework went to live. Whilst he's still a fairly popular hero and still a must pick in the pro scene, he's not really in the spot he was in previously when it comes to competitive play. He's definitely still a solid pick, just not as much of a staple and must pick in competitive than he used to be. Mercy has really been climbing the pick rate charts lately and is doing very well. well. Definitely more of a viable pick currently, but I do think that there are stronger options in her place, but that's not to stop people from playing her. Symmetra still has problems with how defensive specific she can be, and even fairly map specific as well. I don't know how or if this can ever really change, but she's definitely still more of a non-versatile side of support. On the certain maps and game modes that she works on, she can be incredibly effective. And last but not least, we have Zenyatta, who's doing pretty well recently and has since rised in pick and win rate in pro play. However, he's not quite in the same type of spot that Anna used to be in, and is contested for that spot a little bit more. We went over this in a little bit more depth in another video, which you can find in the description below, talking about Anna and Zenyatta specifically, so do check that out if you want to see that video. But that's all of the heroes in Overwatch. And that's it for this time. Thank you very much for watching. There's a lot of options that you can certainly pick if you're looking to one of these heroes for Season 5. My choices, of course, would be Tracer and Zenyatta being really solid heroes at the moment. Winston is a hero that's had a lot of attention around him recently, and even Hanzo at this point. These changes make it free to live, which they may do by the time this video goes out. We're going to see some interesting strats formed there. But until next time, take care. We'll see you then.